Hello and welcome to Our Time.
I think I've got the mumps.
Oh, certainly. No, isn't that the measles when you got lots of spots? Let's ask the doctor.
I can see spots before my eyes. We will ask a doctor. What a good idea. But let's tell you who else is on our program. This one, this time, this one we're doing right this minute.
Who else is on then, Malcolm? Peter's here.
Yes, and talking to our new friends from Hello World, and
Sophie Thompson,
who is the most lovely lady. We ask her to come back. You see her probably every week on the ABC, but this episode you're going to see her on this program, as you're going to see our next and first guest, Dr. Ray Cass. Welcome.
Welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me. I think that might be Malcolm's disease that you have there. Special type of disorder.
A special type of. Yeah. Do you know? I think I bought this shirt in the 1980s. You see, everything comes back.
Yes. I know, and it's very true.
Maybe some of them shouldn't.
No, it is. It's very true.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think it does. Yeah, it does. Yes, and haircuts. My haircut's going to come back into style one day.
Absolutely.
Ray, it's great to have you because last time we were talking about the possibility of memory chips in the future.
That's right. Really.
But what we haven't really talked about are what are the signs that we might have an issue with our memory. As we grow older.
Sure. So memory complaints are common. So I guess the warning signs about people with failing memory, if other people are complaining about your memory.
Now if my husband keeps saying to me, "You've already told me that." Is that a sign, or is it something I need to check straight away?
No, that's up to a point. I think you look. It can't just be your spouse complaining, because all spouses complain about the other person's memory all the time. I know my wife complains about my memory. I would have thought my memory is probably okay.
So I won't take offence with that one.
No, and you need to have failures at other levels as well. So, difficulty at the shops, difficulty calculating. One of the first signs is actually getting lost. So the patient will drive along a route to get home where they've done it for the last 20 years and they suddenly get lost.
Know where they are.
So that's a kind of a warning signs or different behaviour.
Well, there's a question then. So this hasn't happened to me, but I'm acting. So if this happened to me, what would I do? What's the next step?
Well, the first port of call is to go to your general practitioner.
Yep.
So the general practitioner will take a history and decide whether the memory loss is concerning or not concerning. There's lots of reasons why people might get memory loss. So, for instance, depression causes memory issues. So if the patient's depressed, they shouldn't go see a neurologist, they should see a psychiatrist.
So that's an interesting comment, because does that mean if I'm getting depressed about things on a regular basis, it could already be a problem that I've got? Or, people might be having, say, financial problems or family problems that depress them.
Yeah, and then you can get memory problems from that.
From that, okay.
Yeah.
So don't let being depressed make you sick.
That's right.
So to speak.
That's right.
Okay.
So the GP will categorise what type of memory loss, and then they will have a choice to send them to a specialist. So that would either be a geriatrician, a doctor of older patients, or a neurologist. I've got rooms with a neuropsychologist, so he does formal memory testing for a living. And then the memory will be categorised as concerning or not. So when it comes to Alzheimer's, there's a certain pattern of memory loss that we look for.
So you can identify it fairly easily with just an interview, is it? Or do you have to do a test? I mean, what should people expect when they come, if that's...
It depends on how people practice. When they come to see me, for instance, I will take a history of their memory loss, and then I will send them off for some imaging tests. So often I ask for an MRI scan to look at what the brain looks like. Mm-hmm. So we're interested in the temporal lobes, which is where memory lives. So we're interested in the size and characteristics. Sometimes we do a nuclear medicine scan, which looks at the blood flow to the brain. And then I often send the patient to a neuropsychologist for formal testing of their memory. And then when they come and see me, I put together the imaging and the neuropsychology, so they've got a comprehensive view of what their memory is. And often we find that people were concerned about their memory. It's not actually a disease state. sometimes it's over-complaint about their memory. There is a natural reduction in memory with age. And, you know, what we find is that very intelligent people really dislike any memory reduction at all, even though it's inevitable.
No, I absolutely understand that, because I get frustrated with myself. If just earlier we were trying to think of Gloria Swanson's name of all old movie stars, and
it wasn't there, was it? You couldn't
no,
find
but
it.
how old are you? 19.
Yes.
Yes, and he knew that this is our friend on camera too there. He knew and we didn't.
Well, his memory is going to be, unfortunately, better than yours, most
I hate
likely.
you already.
But your experience is better.
Oh,
So
you'll get along.
So if you gave you both a task, you may well win based on experience.
Oh, stop it.
Just want you to notice that for the future.
Misbehaving.
Well, it's just a...
No, but, you know, it's true. We worry about certain things, like as we grow older, we worry about how our body's feeling, our muscles are sore, or, you know, something aches that didn't ache before. I occasionally get gout in this foot and I don't drink alcohol, so, you know, it's not the things that people think, and it's our body's ageing that we don't want to accept. Well, I've got floaties in this eye now that are annoying to me, and you've just got to accept that we are going to age. But what's your best advice for staying healthy that we can, I guess...
To keep our memory as long as we can.
Fight the age.
Oh, I've said this before in an earlier program, you need to live well. And you need to, you know, reduce...
Stay up all night and partying, is that living well?
Didn't kind of mean that. I mean,
No,
healthy
not like
living.
that.
So smoking is a big one. Not drinking too much alcohol, and using your mind and living a healthy life. Those are the things that are protective.
Just made those two socially acceptable things that aren't as socially acceptable as they used to be.
Yes.
Smoking, how does that affect the brain?
Well, it increases your incidence of vascular disease and it's been shown to reduce your memory. Same with excessive drinking.
Okay, and so when you say vascular disease, is that narrowing of the
Arteries.
blood flow into the brain?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And alcohol?
Yes, so alcohol's long been known to be a neuropoison. In fact, I've just been in court last week debating the issues of alcohol and brain function. So clearly people who drink a lot have smaller brain sizes, and they've got a number of particular syndromes related just to alcohol.
That show up early in life, or wait until you're older?
Well, it depends on how much you're drinking.
How much you drink.
It depends on how much drink, so it can occur quite early on. But, you know, the good thing about that's not as common as it used to be.
So
We are a drink. Well, we are known to be a drinking society
you might
too.
be,
Right.
No, it is the Aussie way, isn't it? Really?
I suppose.
It is the Aussie-
well, and
it
the
is the
English
Aussie
way
way.
is very much that too. You know, for many of us who have come from that sort of British background, it was something that was sort of instilled in everybody. There was a drink for every occasion.
Well, so
Very
getting
much
back to your earlier question about how do you get evaluated, these are the things that you would evaluate.
Right. So they're the sort of questions you'd be asking.
Oh, absolutely.
How much do you drink? Do you smoke?
When did you start?
What about diet? How much is, you know, the fat in our diet from butter and milk and those sorts of things has now got a bit of a question mark over it.
Sure, so that increases the incidence of vascular disease as well. Okay. So there's lots of things that we put into an evaluation, your prior education, family history, how much alcohol do you drink? Because there's a difference between a person who presents with alcohol-related memory problems and someone who's got a progressive neurodegenerative disorder.
What about people who read regularly and are stimulating their brain constantly?
Yeah,
through
so that's
reading?
been shown to be neuroprotective. So if you use your brain, then you're more likely to have a neuroprotective effect.
But your dad's a good example.
Yeah, so my father's a very interesting man. He's got 7 degrees now, I think.
Who's won? Who's won out of you and him?
Oh, he's thrashed me. So I've got 5 and he's got 7. But I've got another, 30 years before I need to get my next 2. So he hasn't quite won. So...
That's father and son rivalry, like I've not quite heard before.
He started it.
He started.
When I was 18, I was in his office and I said, I just got into medicine, and he said, "You think you're smart, don't you?" So I said, well, you know, I did get into medicine, and you probably don't know this about me, I was the Australian junior chess champion as well. So I said to him, there's not many people who've got into medicine and an Australian junior chess champion, because that's probably never been done. and he had this little book on his table, and he said, have a look at that. And I opened it, it was called the Cass theorem. He said, when you've got a theorem named after you, that's when you're smart.
Oh dear, like father, like son, I suspect though. Ray, it's been wonderful talking to you once again. Thanks for sharing your time on Our Time.
No problem, thank you.
We'll be back shortly with some more of our friends, including Sophie Thompson, to talk about gardening.
Yes.
And our new friends from Hello World. We'll see you in a tick. Welcome back to Our Time. Janice, true to her word,
We have a guest returning because she talked so much about things that we love.
Yes.
That we've asked her to come back. And thank you, Sophie, for coming back and talking to us.
Great to be here, Janice and Malcolm.
now, people see you virtually every week on Gardening Australia, but they may not sort of think, well, you know, I've never really done this gardening thing. Perhaps you're young, you're just starting off in life, maybe starting a family.
Or have changed house and you have room to grow a garden.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true,
Well,
yes.
some people haven't got room, although, as we've said before, even a small balcony, you can grow something.
You can.
But this is a chance. If you have suddenly got some room, then
so,
why
Sophie,
not?
may I ask the question, where do I begin?
Well, let's say we're interested in produce gardening because, you know, with the rise of interest in you know, fresh food and the quality of what we put into our mouths, I think everyone's interested in produce. So 3 simple projects I'd give people. One is to start a herb garden, one is to start a veggie plot, and one is, you know, possibly to even just start your first fruit tree, whether it's a citrus. Now, all of those
In
can
a
be...
pot, a citrus in a tub or something?
All of those could be done in pots. If you, say, have a balcony, you can have a herb plot in a large pot, in a wine barrel, in, you know, troughs or whatever on a balcony. And usually when we're talking herbs, I tell people, well, first of all, only grow what you eat. You know, it's funny, like we used to eat everything on our plate. You know, if you love, for example, if you love Italian cuisine, I would do yourself a mix planter with some of our favourite Italian herbs. Have some chives, have some garlic chives, have some parsley, basil,
mint,
oregano. Now, mint I wouldn't mix with others, but in another pot,
tends to take over,
it does tend to take over. I'd keep that in its own pot and put a saucer under it because it's very thirsty. But, you know, a pot of the size of the table, we could have an Italian culinary feast off that pot.
Could you have a lemon tree in the middle then?
Not particularly. You could, but in time the herbs aren't going to work that well, right?
Okay.
So certainly, you know, put your lemon tree there. Only plant when the ground's warm with citrus. You know, that's really important. So, you know, you would never plant a citrus tree in winter in a colder climate because it's going to go backwards. But, you know, say with herbs, if you love French cuisine, well, grow chervil and tarragon and, you know, choose the herbs that suit your favourite dining style.
I was just thinking too, you know, if people haven't got a lot of space, what is very popular at the moment is actually planting on a wall. You know, the little things, and you can, little pockets where you can put things, so you don't have to have a big space.
And you only have to water from the top, then it all dribbles down the wall.
So the wall gardens are very popular, and so, you know, a herb plot. Herbs are fantastic because when you buy herbs in the fruit and veg shop or the supermarket, you buy a whole packet. Chances are you don't need a whole packet. So you're going to throw 2/3 away. You'll find that it doesn't last all that long because it's already been several days since it was picked. Now, when you're cooking for yourself, you pick what you need, you use it immediately.
Absolutely.
And so it's much better value. Now, as far as veggies, I suggest to people that you can start a veggie garden on as little as 1 square metre. Now, it could be a wine barrel, it could be a raised veggie bed, it could even be styrofoam boxes if you're renting and you don't know how long you're going to be there. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
They're easy to carry away.
Well, they are
obviously
easy to carry away.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, work out what you like. You know, in 1 square metre, you could have a salad plot. You could grow all these wonderful loose leaf lettuces because lettuces is another thing that if you love your
salads... And they look beautiful too. I had a friend that grew all different sorts of lettuce in a pot, and it was like this magnificent display. It was beautiful.
Absolutely. And
what about drainage holes? I've just been thinking, if you don't know about things like drainage holes, for example.
Yes, and so when you buy a wine barrel, it doesn't come with drainage holes, a half a wine barrel. So you do need to put drainage holes in. You need drainage holes, you need good quality soil, right? So always you know, there's an old saying, you put a $1 plant in a $10 hole, and what that basically means is you always invest in your soil. So if it's potting soil, always have the best potting soil. Make sure it's suitable for growing veggies in, because not all potting soils are organic, so you will find an organic veggie soil that you can use. And you know, for example, many people, like myself, I start my day with a green smoothie. Right? Well, basically it's a green vegetable juice. So you could have a smoothie plot. If you love your smoothie, you know, have kale and celery and parsley, and you're going to start the day, you know, with good health. Look at you rolling your eyes, Malcolm.
Can't wait for a green smoothie. Lovely.
Or, you know,
But look how healthy she looks.
She does, but I just don't feel like a cow somehow.
well, you know, I love Asian cuisine, so I've always got Asian veggies, and growing, you know, bok choy, pak choy, wombok, all those sorts of things, so that you just go and harvest them. And they, you know, they're spectacular.
Can I just tell you a quick story? I did hear about just taking seeds from a tomato and drying them for 12 months. So I thought, oh, I'll try this, never having grown tomatoes before. So I've grown the little shoots, and I'm so excited. And and somebody said to me, oh, you'll never get any fruit from that. I planted all this, and I had an abundance of tomatoes.
Wonderful.
I was so excited. I went, see, I can do this.
But that's the point you're making, isn't it?
Yeah, just
it's
have
such
a
a
go.
rewarding
That's
thing.
It's so rewarding, and the flavour you get out of homegrown tomatoes is so far above those cricket ball things you buy elsewhere
Like
that
they
are called
used to be when we were
tomatoes.
children.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, you know, the market demands longevity and shelf life, right? So we lose flavour and ripeness in the stuff we grow. So, you know, nothing beats a homegrown, sun-warmed tomato picked fresh out of the garden.
Absolutely.
I'm drooling just thinking about it.
But even with things like that, Sophie, like with your abundance of fruit on your vine,
Yes.
see, I've got a little thing, I could dry those if I had too many, or I love making chutneys and sauces.
Beautiful.
So things like that, if you do have an abundance, if you grow a lot, turn them into something else. You don't have to eat them all.
That's
in one
right,
go.
and stack them in the freezer, even just cook them down a little bit and whack them in the
What
freezer.
about herbs in the freezer? Can you freeze herbs in water or something? I seem to remember something that you chop them up and put them in a bit of water and...
Some things you can, and for example with basil, if you freeze it, normally it goes a bit black, but if you make like a pesto, you know, a type of
great.
pesto, you can put
Yes.
it into ice cubes and freeze it that way,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
you've got basil out of season. But a lot of the herbs are basically there all year round. So
Yeah.
Just tell us about looking after... So we've got our big barrel here, and we've got whatever in the barrel to our liking, and we've got good soil. Is there nutrition in the soil already loaded in the soil when we buy it? Does that make it better, or do we need to add something?
So basically, the quality of our produce is going to be determined by the ongoing maintenance. So one thing I'd actually go back to first would be watering, right? Now, for example, if we're growing lettuces, they're soft, tender veggies, we need to make sure we water that pot regularly. If we're growing Mediterranean herbs, they're used to a Mediterranean hillside. They don't mind drying out a little bit more, and so it's all about what we're growing in a way. So watering is really important. And then I would suggest you feed with a soluble organic fertiliser regularly. Now, because we want to keep them growing. You know, if you've ever tried a lettuce that's homegrown, that's perhaps dried out a bit and is a bit hungry, it is bitter and revolting, right? And yet if you keep it growing well, keep it lush, it tastes sweet and beautiful. So the ongoing maintenance is important. The other thing is that generally we need some sun. So even though you can get these little balcony things, you know, for inside, the flavour of the herbs, the flavour of the veggies will never be as good inside because they're not getting the sun to give you the flavour. So, for example, if you have a shady courtyard, possibly the Italian herbs aren't going to be the ones for you because
Or
we
get
want
them up high where they're out of the shade.
or on a wall.
What about in a glass house? What's the difference of having just outside in your garden compared to a glass house?
Well, a glass house is really mainly to get things through winter, right? Or to keep a cropping, you know, to keep tomatoes going through winter or something like that in our colder
Because
climates.
it's making more or less a false summer, isn't it?
It is making a false summer. So, but inside we haven't got any light coming through, whereas in the glasshouse you still have the light coming through.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've got a shady garden, you might say, well, look, there are, you know, parsley doesn't mind the shade, neither does basil, neither do some leafy greens. They don't mind the shade. But trying to grow a tomato in the shade, you're going to be disappointed.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
So,
See, mine was in a sunny spot.
awesome. awesome. And obviously you had beautiful soil.
There you go.
Sophie, it's great talking with you. You didn't learn to do all this years ago, did you? When you first started talking about gardens and gardening, how did it all happen for you at the beginning? Like, who taught you?
I was brought up in a gardening family because my parents had a plant nursery. So unfortunately, I couldn't escape it. I did try and escape it in my teenage years. I moved interstate, thought I'd,
to do
try
what?
something
What did
else.
you...
I became a naturopath, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I moved to Melbourne, became a naturopath, and just before I qualified, my father passed away, and I ended up coming home and getting involved in the family business. And much to my shock, I found out that I loved it. and so, I've been involved basically in the gardening game ever since.
Wow.
And, at the end of the day, I am an obsessive, compulsive gardener. If I could garden all day long, every day of the year, I would. I love it. I don't care if it rains, if it's hot, I'm still out there. And I do garden by night. I have a very high-powered spotlight, which enables me to garden at night. So,
I love it.
You do
That's
it when you can.
Keen gardener.
There
That's
you
a
go.
keen gardener.
Oh.
Sophie, thank you so much for being part of our time.
Lovely to talk with you both.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more in just a minute.
Thanks for joining us again on Our Time. Travel experts are with us once again. Alicia from Hello World Travel at West Lakes. Hello to you.
Hello, how are you?
And Rowan from Travelex.
Hi,
mate.
mate.
How are you? Now, we talked in another segment about cards that you take with you on holidays that you don't need. It's a cashless thing, which is easier these days. Tell us what other services you guys offer at Travelex at the West Lakes store.
So we still sell foreign currency. We sell it commission free when you're buying or selling foreign currency. So you don't have to pay any fees on top of the conversion when you buy money. We have the money on hand all the time. And if we don't have, we can get it for you within a few days. So depending on where you're going to, some places cash is best. So we like to chat to the customer, see what's best for them. And in some instances, it will be cash. The cards are great, but every now and again, you're going to need to focus on the money side of it as well.
Well, when you first get off the plane, presumably, and you're not near one of your Travelex, and as you said in the previous, when we spoke before, that there's these things all over the place, but occasionally you might be somewhere where there isn't, and you might want some dough, some physical cash money.
Yeah, we offer the same rate for cards and cash, so you're not doing yourself a disservice taking all of it on the card to try and save money. Like the rate for the cash and the card is the same, so and there's no commission, so it's however you want to break it up.
I was going to say, because people think, do I have to pay interest, how's it going to work? But obviously the system's been in place for a while now.
Exactly,
Yeah, it's already done. You know what you're going to get when you're there. The rates are all displayed in store. So we explain all that to the customer when they're there.
Now, years ago, people would obviously get the Deutschmarks and whatever before the euro came in years ago, and the Yankee dollar, the greenback, was king. What sort of currencies are people taking now? Is that still the case?
Yeah,
is that the European currency?
Greenback's still king, Peter, I believe. That's the one that everyone looks at the most. Yeah. I do a lot of euros being down at West Lakes, so high European content down there.
Yeah.
So euros and US would be my most regular ones I talk about, and Indonesia, a quick holiday. A lot of people buy Indonesian rupiah, and we've got a much better rate than we used to have on that currency, and we sell a lot of it now.
Because it's a bit complicated. If people aren't into finance, and then they're just the average Joe or Joette, they want to know, and you're there to help them to say, well, if you're going to X, have this method of payment, or take a few dollars or whatever it is.
Correct.
Just have them in your pocket, basically.
Some people like to know what the notes are worth too, like little things like that we'll run through, because there's all different notes they've never seen before.
Exactly.
And we'll outline what they're worth roughly, so they've got a bit of an idea when they're overseas. Just a few things to watch out for if you're going to get more money overseas.
Yes.
There's a few pitfalls with that.
What are they?
Some countries don't give you as much for the Australian dollar when you're there.
Yes.
Some countries probably give you on par or slightly better, but once again, there's pitfalls with it. There's a few countries there where you've really got to watch them when they're counting the money back to you, because there's a few tricks going on at times.
Right, so you have to sort of be alert and don't get taken for a ride and get what you're actually expecting to get.
Correct. You can be in holiday mode and just drift off just momentarily, and it could cost you a few bucks. So if you get the money beforehand or have a card, at least you know where you're at.
So, yes, go on.
Sorry, and so the great thing is to say, for example, like Vietnam, so they can Ro be able to tell them exactly what their best money for that currency. Like Vietnam, you can use the Vietnamese dong, or US dollars widely accepted as well.
So the thing you shouldn't do is if some guy comes up in the street and says, "You Aussie, I've got some money for you. I can do a good exchange rate." Forget it. Eh?
I think swap money in a bum bag's always gonna have a funny ending. I think so.
But as you say, some people are there and they throw their caution to the wind, don't they?
Correct. They're on holiday, so you do things that you wouldn't normally do, I guess.
So we talked about interest just a minute ago. No interest on this money?
No, it's a prepaid card. So when you come back, you just cash it out and it's done and dusted. You can retain the card for up to 5 years.
Gee.
Yeah, but if there's no money on there, you don't get charged a fee. You only get charged if you keep money on there and don't use it in 12 months. So as long as you do a transaction, big or small,
fantastic.
That gives you another 12 months.
Rowan, great advice, Alicia. Lovely to see you again.
Nice to you too.
And we'll be chatting soon.
Thanks, see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there's some good news to go to bed by.
Very good news.
Thank you for joining us once again. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. And until we see you next time,
take
keep
care.
yourself nice. Till then, bye.